All right, folks, let's get started again. Turn those cameras on, and that'll let me know that we're ready to rock and roll. And I think we have enough people back to get started. The rest can join in as they return. Okay, folks, so how are we doing? Everyone's got some energy left in them, some enthusiasm to finish strong tonight, yes? Who's enjoying what we've been doing so far? Right, anyone? Are you getting some interesting insights and sort of inner secrets to making hypnosis ridiculously easy? Yes? We good? So, can I have someone else to come up as a volunteer to have a discussion about what we can do with all this language stuff we've been playing with? Jeff, let's have you up here. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going well. Thank you.
Good. You having fun?
I am having fun. This is a good refresher for me.
Excellent. So what are you taking away from the sort of basic principles that we've been sort of building up?
It is very similar. I see where this is like a condensed version of the Ericksonian.
It is.
I really like the way you're teaching this. This is I like it. It's quite effective.
Thank you.
I would say that what I'm taking away from it is generally the same stuff I did before. The hypnotic language and using these principles really do bring about, it brings about a strong feelings in the mind and the body.
Yes.
And it's funny because there was a couple times where I took some very interesting meaning from something somebody said. When I think about it logically, it doesn't really makes sense for this. But unconsciously, I was like, wow, that was so inspiring.
Yes. Yes. And that's the key thing, right? Because we're looking to affect unconscious change, which then will filter out into, consciously perceptible changes in attitude, feelings, thoughts, behaviors, and so on, right?
Yeah.
Now, we've got essentially two styles of suggestions, do we not? Right? And I guess we can multiply by 4 if we go into, we've got, specific in general, that's true. But then aside from that, we've got two specific different styles of suggestion. One is sensory based, it's based on the senses, things you can see, hear, feel, taste, etc. And another one that's more abstract, comfort, learnings, understandings, and so on. And they're similar, they do similar things, but they're fundamentally different. I think that's what you talked about, the mind having some experiences and the body having other experiences. Does that kind of fit so far?
Yeah.
Why do we want those two different categories or styles of suggestions? What do you think?
Well, conscious and unconscious, because the voice of the unconscious mind is the body, really.
Yes.
So you want to, speak in that type of language.
Why? What does it do when you use sensory-based language to speak to the unconscious? What's it trying to do? Let me give you a hint. Go ahead, yes?
Well, when you're doing that, it sort of elicits feelings, elicits emotions, and elicits ideas, I guess you could say.
It does. Why will the unconscious mind play after that? Like, let's put it this way. Let's go back to the beach and the elephant, right? If we started off, here's a beach, have a look around, nice, and there's an elephant, versus here's a beach, get you immersed in the beach, really enjoying the beach, really being part of the beach, it's vivid, and then the elephant shows up. Which elephant are you more likely to accept? Which elephant are you more likely to reject?
The one where you're more immersed in the experience, I would accept.
Yes, but why? That's such a weird idea, isn't it? You'd think that if it's more immersed, then it's a more alien item, and therefore should take you out of it more because it doesn't fit. And yet the opposite is true. The more immersed you are, the more accommodating you want to be. Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's enjoyment.
Certainly part of it, right? So you don't want to break the immersion. So you're willing to make accommodations for the elephant so as to not break the immersion that you are quite rightly enjoying, right?
Mhm.
There's another element, however. The other element has to do with what creates harmony and what creates disharmony. The elephant's supposed to create disharmony, right?
Mhm.
But let me ask you this. Have you ever been miserable and then something tiny has gone wrong? Did that ever happen to you?
Yes,
How do you respond to that tiny thing that goes wrong when you're feeling miserable?
it amplifies the miserableness.
Yes. Have you ever been delighted, just had a wonderful day, happy as heck, and then something goes wrong?
Yes.
How do you relate to that something going wrong then?
Usually it's a lot easier if it's something
Right?
small. Yeah, usually I can just
Right?
it's almost like I'm dissociated. I'll just
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'll handle this. It's fine. Right? And even bigger things, right, are taken. Let's put it this way: you can deal with something, a bigger issue, more easily when you happen to having a really good day, than you deal with a smaller issue when you're having a miserable day. Would that be fair to say?
yeah,
So
for sure.
something about your state alters the way you respond to, shall we say, an experiential challenge, right? When something unpleasant happens, what you're really saying is, this is unexpected, and I don't know really how to deal with this, right? So it's kind of like that whole sakura time in Japan where the cherry blossoms start falling, right? It's both beautiful and sad at the same time. So the state or the emotions or the experience that you wrap around something will help you digest it. It's kind of like sugarcoating the pill, if you will, right? What does this have to do with sensory-based versus abstract suggestions? The elephant is more acceptable when you're immersed in the beach fully, because your unconscious mind is now playing. It's being warmed up and it likes the place that you've gone to. And it keeps adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And if the elephant comes, it's already used to adding to it. So come on, then why not just add one more? Right?
Yeah.
What does this tell you in terms of the idea of critical factor and the acceptability of suggestions?
That the more immersed you are into something, and as long as it's in a positive way, you're more likely to accept suggestions, as long as probably they're not really negative, as long as it sort of goes with the flow.
Yes. And even negative suggestions, you will tend to either ignore to keep the flow going. So in other words, they've been in harmony with it, or you will reinterpret to be more positive.
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever been insulted by someone and not realized it, and you actually thought it was a compliment? You went, oh, that's nice. And then someone else tells you later on that you've been insulted, and you go like, really? I thought it was being really nice.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the classic examples of, in this case, positive misinterpretation, right? So what does this all have to do? The sensory-based suggestions, they are verifiably true. You can experience them. You can definitely see it. You can definitely hear it. You can definitely feel it, and therefore it must be true. The abstract ideas you can't verify as easily. So if I just throw a word salad of abstract ideas, you like make comfortable learnings now as your understandings grow beyond your conception of what is reliable information that you can acquire, your mind just kind of checks out and goes, what the hell is he talking about? Right? Why? Because your mind is not currently in the habit of turning my words into a concrete experience. But when I take you to the beach and point out the sand and the waves and the surf and the particular pitch of the water, the rhythm that it makes as it rolls in, and the sound rhythm matches the rolling of the waves and that white froth, perhaps even that little scent of air that comes into your nose as you do that. Now your mind is used to converting my ideas into an experience. And so when I say that happiness lives here, that makes a strange kind of sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because your mind is used to interpreting what I'm saying into a concrete experience. And then the abstract idea of happiness living somewhere, what the hell does it mean, happiness living on a beach? Right? But it doesn't matter. your unconscious is used to making the interpretation, and so it interprets it. It makes the abstract concrete, in no different to making abstract, making generally true sensory-based information specifically true. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So we're going to play with that concept now. We're going to do a, so think of it this way. What does pacing and leading mean to you? Does those words mean anything to you?
Yeah, well, the way that I think of that is you're sort of pacing what is going on, but you're leading the pace, I guess you could say.
Kind of. Pacing is what you do when you give someone something that they can check. Right now, you're sitting in that chair, you're listening to me, right? You're obviously wearing clothes, you're in a room that is relatively dark, but has some lights on, right? These are all true statements. And as soon as I mention them, your attention quickly does a check and goes, yep, you're correct. So I'm literally pacing your, in this case, ongoing experience. At the beach, I can tell you about the waves and the surf and the sun and the warmth and the air and etc. I'm still pacing you because it's the internal experience you're currently having. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what pacing means is we're joining. I am joining your reality. And so whenever I say something and you check it and you verify it, your unconscious mind says, it's true. I checked everything it says. I am now becoming a source of truth for you. What leading does is, it, as the name implies, leads you somewhere. Pacing is about what is. Leading is about what could be. When you weave together what is with what could be, then what could be becomes what is, which is exactly what happens, or rather, it's exactly what happened when I told you about the rhythm of the waves and told you that happiness lives there. Happiness lives there could be true. You just made it true because it just fit in the general context of everything we're talking about. Does all that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So we're going to do an experiment to put that all into practice. So how is it going to work? Very briefly, just 3 minutes each. You're going to make 3 suggestions that are pacing suggestions. That means something about their current sensory experience. So I know that right now you can see certain things, feel certain things, hear certain things, probably even smell or taste certain things, but they're going to be more minor, so I'm not going to worry about them too much, right? You can feel the pressure of that chair against your back. You can also feel where your sleeves are rolling up against the edges of your wrists. Now, you can feel your breathing coming in and out, even though you weren't paying attention to it. Just as you weren't paying attention to your left foot, but are now. Now you're looking at me, and you can see the whiteness of my shirt and the brownness of the background. And in some corner of your eye, will see the green, that is the little things in the background that are there. And these are all verifiably true for you right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then I can add on to that a simple ambiguous statement. In other words, a normalization, right? So as you're listening to me, wondering what the greenness of that little tree has to do with anything, but feeling the comfort of your shoulders just reclining into that chair, you might sense the beginning of an understanding developing in the back of your mind. Now, you don't need to feel the pressure of your feet where they're touching the ground, or notice where your left arm is resting on that armrest, or even to hear the sound of your own breathing underneath the sound of my voice, to realize that your unconscious mind can make you feel good. Because it feels nice to just rest in that chair. It feels good to be able to just sit and relax. And you don't even need to close your eyes to know that your unconscious mind can create pleasant experiences for you. You can continue to listen to my voice, and you can continue to see things in your mind's eye as you continue to feel the mild pressure of a chair supporting your body, because your unconscious mind is finding things that are meaningful for you. And as you breathe and continue to listen and perhaps wonder as to what your unconscious mind has prepared for you, you might notice a pleasant experience emerging somewhere in your mind or body that has meaning for you. Do you not? So when you're ready, come on back. So by pacing your current experience, and of course, low, slow, flow, all that sort of stuff, 3 paces, 1 lead, meaningful, happy, pleasant. And then the last point, something very specifically general, which is a meaningful, pleasant experience. Do you mind sharing what it was?
It kind of was like a, I don't know. The best way for me to explain it was almost like colorful fireworks that were sort of going off and they sort of rising in my body.
Beautiful. Beautiful, right?
It was, yeah, kind of like childlike. I don't really know how to explain it.
Excellent, right? So here's a perfect example of how you transformed what I was saying into something meaningful to you just because the word meaningful was in it. Does that help? Do you see how it works? So the exercise is super simple. 3 pacing statement, 1 leading statement. 3 sensory things, see, hear, feel. You can cycle through them. You can keep them all on the same channel, doesn't matter. Then add 1 thing that is not as easily verifiable: love, gratitude, happiness, enjoyment, learnings, understandings, etc. The same list that we've been working on before. Do that several rounds. And if you feel like you want to add a little bit of extra, pizzazz to it, throwing some adjectives and adverbs, something colorful, like, meaningful changes versus something meaningful, right? Happily focusing versus just focusing. You get the idea?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
No. It's like this is the best way I've heard you explain pacing and leading. I guess maybe because I experienced it though. So.
Of course. Pacing.
Yeah.
Right. Remember, all learnings need an experience to be a learning. If you have no experience, you have no learning. You have at best a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So let's release Jeff back to the wilderness and give everyone a chance to ask a question if they have one. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward, right? Super simple. 3 pacing statements. What are pacing? Things they can sense right now, see, hear, feel right now. Then add 1 leading statement and then repeat that pattern for your whole 3 minutes. Bring them back. Easy? Yes? Dive in. There's nothing really to think about, honestly. You're literally just telling them stuff that they can already sense, and then adding any one of the lists. Go into your notes if you need to, any one of those lists of normalizations, and just see what happens. And we'll come back here and discuss it in 10 minutes. Elizabeth, take us away. Go ahead and type up your experiences. If you're back already, folks, go ahead and just drop me a note as to how that went and what you're getting from it. And now everyone else is coming back. So go ahead and drop me a note here. Okay, folks, how was that? Was that fun? Right? Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty easy. What happened to you as a subject when you went through this pattern? 3 things you can kind of verify right now, 3 things you can see, hear, feel right now. 1 thing that's a bit more abstract. Then 3 other things that you can totally sense right now. And 1 thing that's kind of a bit more conceptual. What happened as you started going through that pattern more and more? Go ahead and just tap up some responses here. It started getting easier, right? It became more plausible. See, everything we started predicting with Jeff is coming true right now, right? It was easier to accept, exactly. Mind accepted it more and more when it kept to the abstract concepts. This is what you want. Abstract concepts allow you to channel into different unconscious resources. The sensory experiences engages the unconscious. The abstract ideas activate the hidden potential, shall we say. If you just went for abstract concepts, it totally hit or miss. Half the time the mind just goes, I have no idea what he's talking about, and just shuts off. You need the mind engaged first, then it all starts to make sense, right? After a while, exactly as Peter's saying, after a while, the abstract pattern started to feel more concrete, right? And Kyle said, eventually, I quit being able to tell what was fact and what was leading. And that is when you have a great hypnotic subject. When a great hypnotic subject accepts your leading suggestions in exactly the same way as they accept your factual truth-based suggestions, you've got the ideal subject, don't you? Shall we take this to the next level? Will that be of interest to you guys? See if we can take this pattern and just tune it up a little bit to make it a bit more intense, a bit more productive. Would that be helpful to you guys? Would that be interesting? Yes. So Sanford and David will be having a chat in private, it looks like. Everyone else. Oh, okay. I see. Marco and Chris want in on it too. Oh, suddenly Mark and Clay want to play too. All right, Carl, you can stay here. Everyone else, you want to have a big break whilst I talk to them about what's going on? All right. So here's what we do next. Same concept with a slight twist. We're going to tween it up a little bit, right? Instead of doing a pattern of 3 to 1, so 3 pacing, 1 lead, 3 paces, 1 lead, 3 paces, 1 lead, we're going to start with 5 paces to 1 lead. On the next round, you can do 4 paces, but you can do 2 leads back to back. Then you'll do 3 and 3, then 2 paces and 4 leading statements, and then 1 pace for every 5 leading statements. You'll get 4 minutes, a little bit longer, so you can play around with that. And by the time you get to the kind of the end of the cycle, see if you can get to the point where you're just doing pure leads and watch, are they still accepting them? In other words, is there still harmony or is there disharmony? Are they engaged or are they disengaged? Does that make sense to you guys? Elizabeth, could you please post the notes up quickly? Right? Super simple. The exact same exercise. We're just tweaking the pattern a little bit. 5 paces, 5 to 1, 4 to 2, 3 to 3, 2 to 4, 1 to 5, and then just go pure leading. Easy? Any questions? This will be in your notes as well, in your student manual. 4 minutes each, 12 minutes total. Elizabeth, take us away. Go ahead and start posting for us. Just throw in a few comments whilst we're waiting for the rest of the clan to arrive. All righty, I think that's most people back now. So how was that? Was that fun? Was that interesting? Fun for Harry, excellent. Who here is starting to find themselves getting a little bit tied up with technique? It's like, oh, I've got to follow this technique just super rigidly. Anyone getting a little bit over focused on getting it quote unquote right? Yeah. What happens when you try too hard to get it right? What happens to your ability to perceive the harmony or disharmony that's growing inside of your subject? That's it, Nate. You block yourself, right? Craig saying too many numbers. You're correct, right? Look, this will be a super easy technique for you in time, but this is the first time you've encountered it, so you can play around with it. But the key here is we want to go back to our fundamentals, and our fundamentals is you got to observe to see what is the impact that you are having on your subject, right? If you go, exactly, Harry's nailed it. You go into disharmony with what you're doing when you spend too much time being focused on technique as opposed to just flowing with it, right? Because then you start obsessing about, you know, what can I say? Oh, yes, he's got a chair there and he's got a he's moving to the left, and now he's moving to the right, and he's got a red shirt on, and he's got sunglasses, right? And then this puts you in a kind of a weirdly over-specific place. Now, do you remember? We started today being very specific, right? Someone's describing a scene, riding a bike or by the beach, for example, and with very specific details. And you just gave them specific details back. Was relatively straightforward. But then when we started introducing the concept of generally true rather than specifically true, it got a bit technical at first, but eventually you figured out, oh, this is actually easier. And it's actually more immersive because they're filling in the details. Does that make sense to you so far? Yes? Are you guys with me? So I want to come back to this idea. I want to come back to the idea that when we're pacing, we're using things that are generally true so that they make them specifically true for themselves. Now, I know that all of you are here to kind of learn this stuff. Some of you are more advanced than others, makes total sense. And some of you find it therefore more easy to do these exercises than others because you've seen them before. Those of you who have not seen them before will find it easier when you forget about what you've seen or haven't seen. And here's why. Look, your senses are totally natural. You don't have to think about listening to me to just listen. You can hear the cadence of my voice, and you can make meaning from my words without trying to make meaning. The meaning arrives naturally. In the same way as you can sit in that chair and hold your posture without even realizing you're holding your posture. Who's holding your posture for you when you're too busy thinking about what you're hearing to hold it for yourself? Now, there are a million distractions in your environment. Not only can you see me, the whiteness of my shirt, the background of hair, but to your left of you, there's something that's unique to your environment that no one else can see. And to your right of you, there's something completely different. You know what it is, but I have no way of knowing it. And to the extent that you can just sense the comfort of the chair that you're resting on, to that extent, you can just naturally go with the experience that you're having. Now, it really doesn't matter if you do this with eyes open or eyes closed, because even when your eyes are closed, you still know that the room you're in looks the way it does. You can close your eyes and still sense the objects that are before you. You can hear my voice and still know that I'm coming from a machine as opposed to being physically present in the room with you. But with your eyes closed, you have an unfair advantage. You see, with your eyes closed, your mind can do anything you wish. Whilst one part of your mind is processing these words so you understand them, another part can remember a pleasant walk in a park on a beautiful sunny day. Now you can still hear my voice and yet know what that park looks like. You can hear the rhythm of my speech, and it can remind you of maybe the breeze blowing through some trees. Because any experience you've had is an experience you carry with you wherever you go. And whilst my voice can travel with you where you are, it can travel with you where you're going inside your memory. Now, on a beautiful day, the sun feels warm. And you can even detect the angle of the sun in relation to where you are. Maybe it's in front of you or behind you, to one side or the other. And you can recall the comfort of your feet just casually walking through a pleasant green landscape, which means you're evoking unconscious materials that you can learn from. And there is no requirement to learn anything specific other than the specific thing your unconscious mind needs you to learn. You can just enjoy the sound of nature. You can remember looking left or right or feeling the freshness of the air as some part of you finds meaningful comfort in this memory, a comfort from which you can draw lessons and understandings that you can rely on for the rest of your life. I don't know where this particular park was for you. I don't know how warm the sun is. I don't know how good it feels to walk on that path or that lawn or that location that you find yourself in. All I know is that this memory is a foundation of support for your future. You can accept this memory and make acceptance of a resourceful experience a part of your life. Right now, you're feeling good and calm and pleasant. And that pleasantness is more than a momentary experience. It's a resource that you activated without even trying. It means you can have refreshment anytime you wish. Your unconscious knows how to present this resource to you in a way that generates optimism, because optimism is nothing more than expecting good things in your future. And as trivial as it may have seemed to walk through that park, smell those plants, hear the sounds of nature all around you, it's back again right now, giving you something of value. And that memory will only continue to grow as you do. It matures, becomes more reliable as you draw on it for the resources that allow you to expect good enough things in your future for a peaceful and satisfying kind of optimism to emerge. And that's a resource you can rely on, is it not? So you can take all the time that you need to experience the presence of a respectful kind of strength that evolves right along with you into your future in an enjoyable way. This is how you grow and how you learn. And that means you're changing right now. And isn't it nice to change like this? To change into this? To have more of this in the days, in the weeks, and the months to come. Now, this might seem like just a simple resource that you can activate whenever you need to. And it's so much more, because there's so much more to you. Taking a kind of delightful knowing that there are good things in your future allows you to meet that future with dignity. And it allows you to face obstacles with endurance and perseverance. And as focused as you are right now on the delightful experience that you are developing from yourself, means that a really useful perceptiveness can be developed step by step in your future as you meet others and pay attention to the harmony that you evoke with your presence, with your words, with your rhythm. And it's a comfortable rhythm, because you can offer them a comfortable presence. And when your presence is comfortable and your perceptiveness is attuned to the harmony that it brings out of them, then your cheerfulness becomes their cheerfulness. And you make suggestions without even realizing what is a suggestion. You don't have to think to know that harmony is growing. All you have to do is look, and you will see it. You can look enjoyably. You can perceive resourcefully. And perhaps you can have a surprising acceptance that your influence for the good will just naturally grow as your days become weeks and months. Now, I'm not sure which part of all the things we've talked about just now are necessary for you. I just know that some of what we've talked about has been supportive enough to give you the kind of serenity that gives you strength. What matters most is how that strength alters your behaviors in as little as the coming minutes or hours or days. You'll know your unconscious mind has made a resourceful learning when your conscious mind discovers your behavior is changing. And I have no idea when that's going to happen. I hope it'll happen in the next couple of minutes as you go into your exercise. But it doesn't have to, because the longer you wait to discover your behaviors have changed, the more you give your unconscious mind a chance to make that change really impressive, don't you? So whenever you're ready, you might find that your eyes want to open, because that's the only way that you can begin the exercise that will allow some behaviors to emerge, whether you know what they'll be or not. I don't know, right? Now, all that made sense, didn't it? Didn't it? So Manu is saying, one of the most profound experiences he ever had, wait until tomorrow. So what's the exercise going to be? Basically, we're going to put together everything that we've just been practicing today, right? My recommendation is let's post once just before we get the exercise. Once we get some of the comments out of the way, let's post the the generally true sensory awareness language, the visual, the sounds, also. Let's just post that up again before you go into your exercises, because then all you're going to do is really simply, number one, you're going to start off by pacing generally what's going on for them. Did you notice I didn't just say you're sitting in your chair, you're listening to my voice, and you're experiencing your feet, right? There's so many things that you are hearing and feeling and seeing. There's so many subtle elements of that you can shave it down to. So go wild. If I can do it with 60 of you, then doing it with one person is as simple as not being stuck on any one particular idea. Once you've paced a number of their experiences, you can lead anytime you want, by the way. It doesn't matter when, if it's 5-1 or 3-1 or just whenever you feel like it. The only thing that matters is once you get a sense that they're really listening to you, then offer them a universal trance experience. In this case, it was a walk in the park. And you do exactly the same thing again. Specific and general, specific and general. No difference to when you're sitting in that chair listening to something specific or general about what you can see, hear, or feel. And once they're immersed in the universal trance experience, then just start layering in any of these normalizations, these abstractions, these generally true things that you want, in any way that you want. Basically, do what you want, right? Can you do that? What you want? Do you want to do that? Any questions? Pretty straightforward, isn't it? The question is, if the question is, can I do this? The answer is yes. So just do it and see what happens. And if you want a structure, start with what's going on right now, then give them a universal trance experience, and then end with just generally true statements about everything. And you can make those anytime you want, as long as sometimes they're specific and sometimes they're general. Is that clear enough? Or do you want me to be specifically general? Or am I generally specific? I don't know. Any questions? So let's give you some fun time with this. Let's give everyone 5 minutes, so 15 minutes in total. When you're ready, Elizabeth, take us away. Go ahead and start writing your comments. If you're not writing any comments, that means you're not back. So let me know that you're back. All right, I think we have everyone back now. Okay, folks, how was that? Was that fun? It's sinking in for Barbara. Excellent. Mark's having fun. Craig saying it's flowed really easily. Excellent. Michael is in deep trance. Nice. Any more for any more? Are you beginning to get the hang of this? Another tremendous learning experience? Well, Stephen, you know what that means, don't you? I guess you're changing in ways you don't even realize yet. I wonder how you'll discover that you have. Rebecca, amazing. I'm learning and integrating so much new information. Beautiful. Fun and more for David. Excellent. Great stuff, SI. Well done, SI. Asa's definitely getting better. That was a great and deep session for Mark. Beautiful. Someone had a great experience. We both were on it. And such an easy, enjoyable experience. No friction in generating, keeping it going. Nice. This is a great place for us to wrap things up for today. Just remember, you did this by understanding the primary law, which is create harmony. Then we started to develop ways of doing that by saying things that are true and flowing with our kind of performance elements. And the things that are true, we then started to unfold. There are specifically true things, and they are generally true things, right? And then within the concept of what's generally true, there are generally true things about what they can perceive, see, hear, feel. And they're generally true things about what they can conceive, harmony, excitement, learnings. With those few moving pieces, you can create some really deep, very powerful, and most important of all, very compelling suggestions. Would that be fair to say? Yes? Now I'm going to leave you with a puzzle. There are a number of different gateways for inducing hypnosis, right? 3 of them, actually you play with 2 of them today, kind of a third one as well. 3 of them are narrow focus. So when their focus gets narrowed in on something. The second one is widening focus when it opens up to something. And the third one you played with today without necessarily realizing it was dissociation, when you kind of forget about some part of your experience, right? What I'd like you to do is think about narrowing, expanding, and dissociating from your experiences and how that has fit the kinds of exercises and experiences you've had throughout today. Tomorrow, we'll have a little more chat about that and start weaving that into the next layer, the next set of principles that we'll be working with. And in other words, how do we start taking these skills, these language skills we've built up and these peripheral skills around that, and start making them practical, turning them into actual hypnotic processes that will let us do what we want to do. Does that sound like a good deal? So the only thing that remains for me to say is, look, you've worked hard today, right? And even though you've been sitting down, you spent a lot of energy, because all the energy you haven't put into moving your body, you have put into moving your mind. And whilst you've heard everything I said, not everything I said has registered fully consciously that you can sit down and remember it to the point where you can write it down. But your unconscious mind has been listening in a different way, been listening in an experiential way, which is why you understand what I mean by things that are true in a specific way and things that are true in a general way, which is why you can recognize that your learnings are a normalization, an abstract concept, and still experience those learnings as something that's true for you, because it's rooted in actual experiences. Now, whether that's walking on a beach, in a park, or doing something else, those are specific things that you've experienced in here based on your memories from the past and experiences that are being built out of those memories. And if you can build experiences out of memories that you've never had, then you can build any experience you wish. And this is a very important thing for you to really internalize, because if you can build any experience you wish, then you can learn any lesson you wish. An experience plus a perspective creates the lesson that changes you. That means you have, as of right now, the capacity to make any change you wish in your life. Now, I don't know what changes you'll be making, and I don't think you quite know how wide-ranging those changes will be, because your unconscious mind is the one that's been generating the experiences on which these changes will be based. So all you have to do is smile, sit back, relax, and look forward to when you'll discover those changes showing up in your behaviors, in the way you feel, and in the way you think. And it's only when you actually go into the physical world after this seminar that you get to find out how much you've changed in a way that's really comfortable for you. Tonight, all you have to do is have fun. Let thoughts come, let thoughts go. And eventually, just like you do every night, you'll go to sleep. And when you sleep, that's when the real learnings will take place. Everything you've experienced here will be reformulated in dreams. And those dreams are the things that shape your reality. And I don't mean the inner reality. I mean the outer reality, how you see the world, how you behave in the world, what signals you put into the world, which changes the world, the way the world responds to you. So that sooner than you think, you'll find the world being a much nicer, friendlier, and more successful place than you've ever realized. And all you have to do is enjoy yourself tonight and go to sleep. Do you think you can do that? So on that happy note, I'll see you guys bright and breezy tomorrow morning.